Dalthos stood at the observation deck of the Eternal Harmony, watching the human ship approach through the void of space. His reptilian eyes tracked every movement of the vessel as it glided toward the docking bay. The ship was different from anything he had seen in his 40 years of service to the Galactic Coalition. The hull was scarred. Deep burns marked its surface. Dents and patches covered the metal plating like old wounds. Dalthos tilted his head, confused. Why would they keep a damaged ship? Every other species in the Coalition maintained their vessels in perfect condition. These humans seemed primitive, careless even. They wear their battles like decorations, he muttered to himself, making notes on his datapad. High Admiral Vormek had assigned him to observe these newcomers, to understand them. The humans had refused to join the Coalition 12 times over 40 years. Now they finally agreed to talk. Dalthos needed to know why. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic thud. Dalthos made his way to the reception area where other Coalition officers gathered. They came from different worlds, different species. Some had scales like him. Others were made of gas or light. One was just a floating consciousness in a containment field. All of them watched the airlock door with curiosity. The door opened with a hiss. The humans stepped through. Dalthos studied them carefully. They looked unremarkable. Average height, maybe 2 meters tall. Soft skin with no natural armor. No claws, no venomous fangs, no protective shells. Their bodies seemed weak, vulnerable. He wondered how such fragile creatures had survived on their homeworld. The leader stepped forward. His uniform was neat but showed signs of use. A name patch read Captain Ji-hoon. His face was hard, lined with what looked like stress or age. Dark eyes swept across the room, taking in every detail, every person, every exit. Dalthos felt those eyes pause on him for just a moment before moving on. "I am Captain Ji-hoon of the human vessel Indomitable," the man said. His voice was calm, measured. "Thank you for receiving us." High Admiral Vormek floated forward, his gaseous form shifting colors in greeting. "Welcome to Crossroads Prime, Captain. We are pleased you have finally accepted our invitation." Behind Ji-hoon stood 2 other humans. A woman with sharp features and intelligent eyes introduced herself as Lieutenant Hana. A massive man with scars on his face and arms gave his name as Master Sergeant Tae Yang. Neither smiled. Neither looked relaxed. They stood like statues, always watching. The formal introductions continued. Dalthos noticed something odd. While the Coalition officers shook hands or touched appendages in greeting, the humans responded differently. Their handshakes were firm, almost crushing. Their eyes never stopped moving. Lieutenant Hana seemed to memorize every face, every name, every detail of the station around them. When Dalthos shook hands with Captain Ji-hoon, he felt the strength in that grip. The human's palm was calloused, rough. These were hands that had done hard work. The captain's eyes met his for a brief second, and Dalthos saw something there that made his scales prickle. It was not hostility. It was assessment. The human was evaluating him as a threat. Strange, Dalthos thought. We invited them here for peace talks. Why do they act like they expect danger? The tour of the station began. Crossroads Prime was a marvel of Coalition engineering. Neutral territory where different species could meet and negotiate. Gardens from 100 worlds. Technology from 200 civilizations. Art and culture on display everywhere. The humans barely looked at any of it. Lieutenant Hana walked slightly ahead, her eyes scanning corridors and doorways. Master Sergeant Tae Yang stayed at the rear, watching behind them. Captain Ji-hoon asked questions, but not about the art or gardens. He wanted to know about structural integrity, emergency protocols, evacuation routes, security measures. Dalthos made more notes. These humans were not interested in culture or beauty. They were mapping the station. Every question revealed tactical thinking. Every glance was strategic. It was almost like they expected to fight here. The formal negotiations began in the main conference hall. Representatives from 20 major coalition species sat around the circular table. Captain Ji-hoon sat with his hands folded, listening. Lieutenant Hana took notes on a simple datapad. Taiyang stood against the wall, arms crossed, watching everyone. High Admiral Vormek spoke of cooperation and mutual benefit. He explained how the coalition had maintained peace for 300 years through diplomacy and understanding. He painted a picture of a galaxy united in purpose, where war was a forgotten relic of primitive times. Captain Ji-hoon listened without expression. When it was his turn to speak, he stood slowly. "The coalition has achieved something remarkable," he said. 3 centuries without major conflict. That is impressive. Dalthos noticed the pause after the word, impressive. There was something unsaid in that gap, something the human was choosing not to express. "However," Ji-hoon continued, "humanity has concerns. We have watched your coalition from a distance. We see your peace. But we also see that you have forgotten how to defend it." Murmurs rippled through the room. Several representatives looked offended. One stood to object. Before anyone could speak, alarms shrieked through the station. Red lights flashed. An automated voice announced in calm, mechanical tones, "Alert! Hostile vessels detected. All personnel report to designated safe zones. This is not a drill." Chaos erupted. Coalition representatives jumped from their seats, some running for doors, others activating personal communicators. Voices rose in panic and confusion. Security officers rushed into the room, uncertain what to do. The humans did not move. Dalthos watched in amazement as Captain Ji-hoon calmly touched a device on his wrist. Lieutenant Hana was already typing rapidly on her datapad. Master Sergeant Taiyang had moved to the door, evaluating the panicking crowd with cold eyes. "Hana, status," Ji-hoon said quietly. 27 hostile signatures, Krithari design. They are attacking the eastern docking bays. Station defenses are responding but ineffective. Coalition security is scattered. Her voice was steady, professional. She might have been reading a weather report. "Anticipated this," Taiyang grunted from the doorway. Dalthos felt his blood run cold. They had anticipated an attack? At a peace conference? Captain Ji-hoon turned to High Admiral Vormek, who was trying to restore order. "Admiral, with your permission, my people can help stabilize the situation." Vormek's gaseous form swirled in agitation. "Captain, your offer is appreciated, but our security forces will handle this. Please proceed to the safe zone with the other diplomats." An explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered. More alarms joined the chorus of warnings. "Your security forces are not prepared for this," Ji-hoon said. It was not an insult. It was a simple statement of fact. "The Krithari are experienced raiders. They know you have no military training. They are counting on your confusion." Another explosion, closer this time. Screams echoed through corridors. Someone was crying. Coalition security officers ran past the conference room, disorganized and afraid. High Admiral Vormek looked at the chaos around him. Then he looked at the 3 humans standing calm in the storm. They were not afraid. They were ready. They had been ready since they arrived. "What do you need, Captain?" Vormek asked quietly. Ji-hoon's face remained expressionless, but his eyes hardened. "Access to our ship and permission to deploy our Marines. We will handle the rest." "Granted." The transformation was instant. Captain Ji-hoon touched his communicator. "All hands, combat deployment. Authorization Ji-hoon 77 Alpha. Rules of engagement. Protect coalition personnel. Neutralize all hostiles. Move." Dalthos followed the humans as they moved through the station. He had to document this. He had to understand. Behind them, other coalition representatives huddled in safe rooms waiting for rescue. The humans ran toward the danger. As they passed a viewport, Dalthos saw the human ship Indomitable detach from its dock. Its weapons, previously dormant, came online. Ports opened along its scarred hull, revealing gun batteries that had been hidden. The ship that looked damaged and primitive suddenly became something else entirely. A predator, dropping its disguise. Dalthos realized with growing dread that everything about the humans had been calculated. The scars on their ship were not neglect. They were warnings. The calm assessment was not curiosity. It was preparation. These beings had come to a peace conference expecting war, and they were ready for it. The human Marines arrived at the assembly point in 40 seconds. Dalthos had never seen anything move so fast with such purpose. They emerged from the Indomitable wearing armor that was dented and scorched, just like their ship. Each suit bore marks of previous battles, but every piece of equipment functioned perfectly. Master Sergeant Tae Yang stood before his squad of 12 Marines. His voice was calm, almost casual. Standard containment protocol. Protect coalition civilians. Neutralize hostile forces. No prisoners if they resist. Questions? No one spoke. The Marines checked their weapons with practiced efficiency. Click, slide, check. The same motion repeated 12 times in perfect synchronization. Dalthos realized they had done this so many times it was automatic. Like breathing. Move out, Tae Yang ordered. The squad split into 3 teams without another word. They knew their roles. They knew their positions. They moved like water flowing through pipes, taking the paths of least resistance but filling every space. Dalthos followed Team 1, his recording devices active. Captain Ji-hoon had given him permission to observe, warning him only once. Stay behind us. Do not interfere. If you see something you do not like, remember that we are saving lives. The warning confused Dalthos then. It would not confuse him for much longer. They reached the first combat zone in 3 minutes. A group of Krithari warriors had cornered a dozen coalition civilians in a dining area. The Krithari were large insectoid creatures with natural armor and sharp limbs designed for cutting. They stood nearly 3 meters tall. They had killed 2 coalition security officers already. The bodies lay in pools of blue blood. The civilians huddled together, crying, begging for mercy in a dozen different languages. The Krithari were laughing. They enjoyed the fear. The human Marines did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply acted. 3 shots. 3 Krithari dropped. The humans had aimed for joints in the natural armor, weak points most species would not even know existed. The shots were precise, calculated. Not fatal, but disabling. The remaining 4 Krithari spun toward the threat. One charged immediately, its blade arms raised high. It was fast, faster than any coalition species could react to. The humans were faster. Tae Yang stepped forward and shot the charging Krithari in the leg joint. The creature stumbled. Another shot took its weapon arm. It fell, screaming. Tae Yang stood over it for a moment, weapon aimed at its head. Yield, he said in Galactic Common. The Krithari spat something in its own language. Defiance. Hatred. Tae Yang shot it once more. The Krithari stopped moving. Waste of potential, the sergeant muttered and moved on. Dalthos felt sick. The casualness of it. The cold efficiency. This was not war as he understood it. This was extermination. Professional, calculated extermination. The other 3 Krithari tried to fight. They lasted 11 seconds. The humans moved as one unit, covering each other, firing with precision. When it was over, 7 Krithari lay dead or dying. The civilians were safe. The entire engagement had taken less than 30 seconds. Secure the civilians, Tae Yang ordered. Second team, continue sweep. Third team, establish perimeter. One of the Marines approached the terrified civilians. She removed her helmet, revealing a young face with kind eyes. You are safe now, she said gently in perfect Galactic Common. Please follow me to the secure zone. Walk, do not run. We have cleared the path. The contrast was jarring. Seconds ago, these humans had killed without hesitation. Now they offered comfort and protection. They could switch between violence and compassion like flipping a switch. Dalthos followed the Marines deeper into the station. They encountered more Krithari groups. Each engagement followed the same pattern. Quick assessment, precise action, overwhelming force. The humans never hesitated. They never showed mercy to those who refused to surrender. They never showed fear. In the command center, Lieutenant Hana coordinated the defense with cold brilliance. She stood before a holographic display, moving markers and issuing orders with mechanical precision. Team 4, enemy breach at Section Charlie in 18 seconds. Prepare flashbangs. Dalthos watched the timer. 18 seconds passed exactly. An explosion shook the station. Team 4 reported enemy contact immediately. How did you know? Dalthos asked. Hana did not look away from her display. Krithari tactics are predictable. They breach in patterns. After taking the eastern bay, they will try to flank through maintenance corridors. Limited entry points. Simple mathematics, but how can you be certain? I cannot be certain. I'm calculating probability. 87% chance they would use that corridor. I prepared for it. Being right means we win. Being wrong means we adapt. Either way, we prevail. Dalthos watched her work for another hour. She predicted enemy movements with frightening accuracy. She coordinated 5 teams across the station, managing resources, directing fire, saving lives. Her face never changed expression. Her voice never wavered. During a brief pause in the fighting, Dalthos asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Lieutenant, do you enjoy this?" Hana finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired but sharp. "Enjoy? No, this is war. War is terrible. People die. Families lose loved ones. There is no joy in that. But you seem so calm, so efficient. Because emotion clouds judgment. My feelings do not matter right now. Only results matter. If I panic, people die. If I hesitate, people die. So I do not panic. I do not hesitate. I do my job." She paused. "And yes, I am good at my job. There is satisfaction in competence. But that is different from enjoying war itself." Dalthos was beginning to understand. These humans did not fight because they loved violence. They fought because they were extremely skilled at it. They had turned warfare into a craft, something to be perfected through practice and study. A call came through. One of the Marines was injured. Dalthos followed the medics to the location. The wounded Marine was a young woman named Corporal Minji. A Krithari blade had pierced her armor, cutting deep into her side. Blue blood mixed with red on the floor. The medic worked quickly, but Minji pushed her away. "Not yet. Corridor is not secure." She pulled a small injector from her belt and pressed it against her neck. There was a hiss of compressed air. "What was that?" Dalthos asked. Another Marine answered. "Combat stim. Painkiller and adrenaline. Blocks the hurt. Keeps you moving. She will feel it tomorrow." He paused. "If there is a tomorrow." Minji stood, gritting her teeth. Her wound still bled, but her eyes were clear. "I can fight." Dalthos watched in horror as she returned to her position. Any coalition species would be incapacitated by such an injury. This human simply took medicine and continued fighting. The will to continue, to push through pain, it was beyond anything he had seen. By the time the fighting ended, the humans had cleared 7 sections of the station. They had saved over 300 coalition civilians. They had eliminated 42 Krithari warriors and captured 15 more. 3 humans were wounded. None had died. Coalition security forces, by comparison, had managed to secure 2 sections and save 40 people. They had lost 12 officers in the process. Dalthos reviewed his recordings that night. He watched the humans fight again and again. Every movement was practiced. Every shot was aimed. Every decision was based on experience. These beings had spent thousands of hours training for combat. It showed in every action they took. He wrote in his personal log, "The humans do not fight like animals. They fight like craftsmen perfecting their art. They have made warfare into a science. Every technique is tested. Every tactic is refined. They are not bloodthirsty. They are professional. That professionalism makes them far more dangerous than any berserker could ever be." Dalthos finally understood why the humans had refused to join the coalition for so long. They had been watching, waiting, judging, and they had seen a coalition of species that had forgotten how to defend themselves. The humans had not come to join the coalition. They had come to save it. The Krithari pushed deeper into the station over the next hours. Their numbers were greater than anyone had anticipated. 60 ships, 300 warriors. They had planned this attack for months, studying coalition weaknesses, choosing the perfect moment. Coalition forces retreated to the command center, establishing a defensive perimeter. It was chaos. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Security personnel looked terrified. No one had trained for this. Peace had made them soft. The humans established their line at the final corridor leading to command. 30 meters of hallway, 1 entrance. Master Sergeant Tae Yang positioned his 12 Marines in overlapping fields of fire. They set up portable barriers. They checked ammunition. They waited. Dalthos sat with them during the lull in fighting. He needed to understand these creatures. He needed to know what made them so effective. Sergeant Tae Yang, Dalthos began carefully. May I ask you a question? The massive human was cleaning his weapon, methodical movements born of long practice. He did not look up. Ask, how many battles have you fought? Tae Yang paused, thought. Actual battles? Full-scale combat? 14. He resumed cleaning. Skirmishes and engagements. Lost count after 200. Dalthos felt his scales prickle. You are 45 years old. You have been in 200 fights? Give or take. Some years were busier than others. The casual tone made it worse. This human treated war as normal, expected, just part of life. Later, Dalthos found Lieutenant Hana reviewing tactical displays. She looked exhausted but alert. Lieutenant, may I ask about human history? What would you like to know? Your species. How long have you had interstellar travel? 42 years, and before that? How long were you a unified species? Hana smiled, but there was sadness in it. We are not unified. Not completely. We have one government for space matters, but Earth still has 200 nations. We argue constantly. Disagree about everything. Sometimes we even fight small conflicts. Dalthos was shocked. You still have internal conflicts? In the modern age? Define modern. Hana pulled up historical data. In the 21st century, what we called our most peaceful time in generations, we had 60 active armed conflicts. Over 2 billion people lived in regions affected by war or threat of war. That was your peaceful era? Dalthos could not comprehend it. The Coalition had 8 conflicts in 300 years across 200 species. Humanity had 60 in a single century on one planet. Relatively speaking, yes. The century before that was worse. The century before that worse still. For most of human history, some portion of our species was always at war with another portion. Always. Hana's eyes were distant. We have 10,000 years of recorded warfare. Probably more before we learned to write it down. Why? Why so much conflict? Hana shrugged. Resources, territory, religion, politics, pride. Sometimes we fought for good reasons. Sometimes for terrible ones. Sometimes for no real reason at all except that we had forgotten how to stop. She looked at him. We are not proud of our history, but we cannot forget it. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Dalthos found Captain Ji-hoon in a quiet corner, reviewing casualty reports. The captain looked tired. More than tired. Worn. Captain, why did humanity refuse to join the Coalition for so long? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. We watched you. We studied your civilization. We saw something that worried us. What did you see? Peace, beautiful, wonderful peace. 200 species living in harmony. No major wars, no armies, no weapons development. Just diplomacy and cooperation. Ji-hoon met his eyes. It was admirable. It was everything we wished we could be. Then why not join? Because we also saw vulnerability. You had forgotten how to fight. Your security forces are police, not soldiers. Your ships have basic weapons but no real military capability. Your entire civilization is built on the assumption that everyone will choose peace. Is that not a good assumption? It is a beautiful dream, but it is just a dream. Ji-hoon gestured at the chaos around them. The Krithari did not choose peace. They saw your weakness and attacked. How many species in the Coalition could defend themselves right now? Dalthos thought about it. The answer was painful. None. None of us could. We learned a hard lesson over 10,000 years of history. Peace is wonderful. Peace is the goal, but peace requires strength. If you cannot defend yourself, then you are not at peace. You are simply waiting to be conquered. You think we are weak. I think you are unprepared. There is a difference. You are not weak people. You are good people who have not been challenged in a long time. You have forgotten that the galaxy is not always kind. Dalthos felt anger rising. And humans remember. We remember because we cannot afford to forget. Every human child learns history. We teach them about the wars, about the mistakes, about the price of being unprepared. We do not do this because we love war. We do it because we hate it so much we never want to be helpless before it again. That is why you stayed away. You saw us as sheep. Ji-hoon's expression softened. Not sheep. More like children, innocent, untested. You have never faced a real threat. You have lived in safety so long you think safety is permanent. It is not, it never is. Then why come now? Why help us? Because you are good people. You have built something beautiful. You deserve to keep it. But you need to learn to protect it. Ji-hoon stood. We came to teach you, to share what we know, not because we want you to be like us, but because we want you to survive. An explosion interrupted them. The Krithari were pushing again. Ji-hoon moved to the command center. Dalthos followed. In the corridor, Dalthos met Corporal Dae-hyun, the youngest human Marine at 24 years old. He was joking with another Marine, laughing about something. When he saw Dalthos, he smiled. Observer, how do you like the show? You are making jokes? Now, Dae-hyun shrugged. What else are we supposed to do? Cry? Being scared does not help. Laughing helps a little. He showed Dalthos his arm. 3 scars ran across it. See these? This one is from training. This one is from my first deployment. This one is from last year. I named them. You named your scars? Sure, this one is called stupid. This one is called lucky. This one is called lesson learned. He grinned. Each scar teaches you something. These ones taught me to duck faster. Every human serves in the military. 2 years mandatory service. Some stay longer. Some go home. But everyone learns the basics. How to fight. How to survive. How to protect others. Dae-hyun's smile faded. My grandfather told me stories. Before mandatory service, before we united for space travel, we almost destroyed ourselves. Nuclear weapons. Biological warfare. We came so close to extinction. So we made a promise. Every human would learn to defend humanity. Never again would we be helpless. Dalthos met Dr. Isul, a civilian scientist who had been on the station for research. She was 52, gray hair pulled back, wearing simple clothes. She sat in the command center, calm despite the danger. Doctor, you are a civilian. Yet you do not seem afraid. Isul looked up from her data pad. I am afraid. Fear is natural, but panic helps no one. I did my service 28 years ago. I remember the training. If needed, I can help. You can fight? Basic weapons handling. Emergency procedures. Nothing like these soldiers, but enough to be useful if it comes to that. She smiled sadly. This is the human way. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. We learned that lesson in blood repeatedly for 10,000 years. The lesson cost us billions of lives. We will not forget it. Dalthos understood now. Every human was a warrior, at least a little bit. They had built their entire culture around preparation for conflict. Not because they wanted war, but because they had lived through so much of it that they could never feel truly safe. The coalition had peace because they were lucky. The humans had peace because they were strong enough to defend it. That made all the difference. The alarm that changed everything came at 400 station time. Lieutenant Hana's face went pale as she read the sensor data. They have reached the reactor level. High Admiral Vormek floated forward urgently. How many? 20 Krithari warriors. They have established defensive positions around the primary reactor. If they damage it, the explosion will destroy the entire station. Everyone dies. 3,000 souls. The command center fell silent. Coalition officers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. There was no good solution. Any assault would give the Krithari time to sabotage the reactor. Any negotiation would fail because the Krithari wanted everyone dead anyway. They were paralyzed. Captain Ji-hoon studied the reactor schematics on the display. His face was calm, thoughtful. After 30 seconds, he turned to High Admiral Vormek. We can handle this. Captain, any assault will trigger the detonation. They will have warning. Not if we do it correctly. Ji-hoon pulled up a tactical overlay. Lieutenant Hana, analysis please. Hana worked her display for 90 seconds. Her fingers moved across the holographic controls with practiced speed. 4 entry points. Simultaneous breach required. Timing must be perfect within 0.3 seconds. Estimated enemy response time 2.7 seconds. Window of opportunity 2.4 seconds. Success probability 43%. Casualties? Ji-hoon asked. Best case 4 wounded. Worst case 7 dead, 3 wounded. Acceptable case 3 dead, 5 wounded. Dalthos felt sick. She was discussing human deaths like they were numbers on a report, and Ji-hoon just nodded, accepting the analysis. We have 12 effectives. Acceptable losses. Ji-hoon looked at Vormek. Admiral, permission to proceed. Captain, those odds are better than 0. Right now, if we do nothing, 3,000 beings die with certainty. If we act, we have a 43% chance to save them. My Marines understand the mathematics. They will volunteer. Formek looked at the coalition officers around him. None of them had a better idea. None of them had any idea at all. Proceed, Captain. Ji-hoon gathered his Marines in the briefing room. Dalthos watched from the corner, his recording devices capturing everything. He had to document this, even if it failed. Especially if it failed. Lieutenant Hana projected the tactical plan. 4 teams, 3 Marines each, simultaneous breach from north, south, east, and west. Synchronized within 0.3 seconds. Team 1 eliminates defensive positions north side. Team 2 takes east. Team 3 takes south. Team 4 secures the reactor itself and prevents sabotage. She paused. Estimated casualties 60%. Some of you will not return. Make your peace with that now. The Marines looked at each other. No one spoke. No one objected. They simply nodded. They had already made their peace. Dalthos watched Master Sergeant Taeyang write a letter on his datapad. His handwriting was neat practiced. He had done this before. When he finished, he sealed it and handed it to another Marine. If I fall, send this home. The other Marine took it without comment. She was writing her own letter. Corporal Dae-hyun, the young Marine who made jokes, sat quietly sharpening his knife. The jokes were gone now. His face was serious, focused. He was preparing himself mentally for what came next. Corporal Minji, still wounded from the earlier fight, checked her weapon. The medic tried to stop her. You are not cleared for combat. I can fight. That is all that matters. Captain Ji-hoon stood before his Marines. You know the mission. You know the odds. You know what failure means. 3,000 beings are counting on us. We are the only ones who can do this. Questions? Silence. Then let us make this count. Move out. Dalthos followed Team 4. He stayed far behind as ordered, but he had to see this. His entire report depended on understanding how humans fought when everything was on the line. The teams moved through the access corridors in complete silence. No talking, no signals. They communicated through their helmet displays, coordinating movements with perfect precision. Dalthos watched the countdown timer in the corner of his vision. All 4 teams approaching their entry points simultaneously. 10 seconds. Each team placed breaching charges on their respective walls. Precise placement. Correct angles. They had practiced this so many times it was automatic. 5 seconds. The Marines took position. Weapons ready, eyes forward. Breathing controlled. They were not excited. They were not afraid. They were focused. 3, 2, 1. 4 explosions. Perfect synchronization. Within 0.27 seconds of each other. The walls blew inward. Smoke and debris filled the reactor chamber. The humans moved like ghosts through the chaos. Precise, lethal, silent. Team 1 engaged the north defense. 3 Krithari warriors died before they could raise their weapons. The humans did not give them time to react. Team 2 took the east position. 4 Krithari fell. 1 Marine was hit. She went down hard but kept firing from the ground. Suppressing fire kept the enemy from advancing. Team 3 cleared the south approach. 5 enemies neutralized. Master Sergeant Tae-yang led the assault personally. His movements were economy itself. No wasted motion. Every shot counted. Team 4, led by Captain Ji-hoon, rushed the reactor itself. 3 Krithari were attempting to override the safety systems. They looked up too late. Ji-hoon shot the first one. The second raised a weapon. Corporal Dae-hyun was faster. The third tried to complete the reactor override. Ji-hoon was beside him in an instant, pulling him away from the controls. The Krithari commander, larger than the others, stood between Ji-hoon and the reactor. He raised his blade arms in challenge. Ji-hoon did not accept challenges. He shot the commander in both arms. The creature fell, screaming. Ji-hoon stood over him, weapon aimed at his head. Disarm the reactor, now. The commander spat something in Krithari language. Defiance, hatred, a promise that he would rather die than surrender. Your choice. Ji-hoon fired once. The second in command immediately scrambled to the reactor controls. His hands worked frantically to reverse the override. The countdown stopped at 11 seconds. The station was saved. The entire operation had taken 4 minutes and 18 seconds. The cost. Corporal Dae-hyun was dead. A Krithari blade had caught him in the throat during the final moments. He had bled out before the medics could reach him. Private Yoon was dead. She had taken 3 hits protecting her team leader. Lance Corporal Kai was dead. He had stayed behind to hold a corridor, giving his team time to advance. He had known it was a one-way trip. 5 others were wounded, including Minji, who had finally collapsed from her injuries and blood loss. The survivors did not celebrate. They gathered the bodies of their fallen comrades. They worked in silence, careful and respectful. Each body was wrapped properly. Each name was recorded. Each sacrifice was noted. Captain Ji-hoon stood before the 3 wrapped bodies. His face was stone. They knew the price. They paid it willingly. We will make their sacrifice worth it. That is all we can do. That is all we must do. No tears. No emotional speeches. Just cold determination and respect for the fallen. Dalthos recorded it all. He understood now. Humans did not fight to survive. They fought to win. Survival was just a bonus. This mentality, this willingness to accept casualties if it meant achieving the mission, it made them unstoppable. Other species fought when cornered. Humans fought by choice with calculation, accepting terrible costs to achieve their goals. The Krithari had made a mistake. They thought the coalition was defenseless. They had not known about the humans. Now they knew, and now they were retreating, their fleet breaking apart, running from the station and the humans who had broken their assault. 3,000 beings had been saved. 3 humans had died to save them. Dalthos finally understood the humans' fearsome reputation. It was not about cruelty or savagery. It was about competence. Professional, calculated, deadly competence. And that was far more terrifying than any monster could ever be. 3 weeks later, Dalthos stood before the Galactic Coalition Council. 200 representatives from 200 species filled the Grand Chamber. All of them had seen the footage. All of them had read his report. All of them were afraid. The humans waited outside as requested. Captain Ji-hoon and his surviving crew had agreed to leave while the council debated. They showed no concern. They knew what the council would decide. They had known from the beginning. Dalthos activated the holographic display. Honored council members, I have completed my assessment of humanity. What I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about warfare, peace, and survival. He played the footage. The attack on Crossroads Prime, the human response, the reactor assault. The council watched in silence. Some looked horrified. Some looked sick. Some looked thoughtful. When the footage ended, Dalthos continued. The humans are the most dangerous species in known space. This is not opinion. This is fact. They have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. They do not fight angry. They fight professionally. That professionalism makes them far more dangerous than any beast or berserker could ever be. A council member from the Velran species stood. Then surely we must not allow them into the coalition. They are too dangerous, too violent. We have worked for 3 centuries to eliminate war. These humans would bring it back. Another representative stood. The Krithari attacked us precisely because we forgot how to fight. We were helpless, sheep waiting for wolves. The humans saved us. Does that mean nothing? The debate grew heated. Fear versus gratitude, safety versus vulnerability. For 2 hours they argued. Dalthos let them. They needed to work through their feelings. Finally, High Admiral Vormek called for order. Dalthos, what is your recommendation? Dalthos took a deep breath. Accept them, immediately, without reservation. He looked around the chamber. I understand your fear. I share it. The humans frighten me, but let me tell you what frightens me more. Facing the next threat without them. He pulled up more data. The Krithari were not a major power. They were exiles, outcasts, a minor threat by galactic standards. And they nearly destroyed us. What happens when a real threat emerges? What happens when someone with actual military power decides to attack? Silence fell over the chamber. We have a choice, Dalthos continued. We can refuse the humans because they are dangerous. We can maintain our illusion of peace, and when the next attack comes, we will die. Or we can accept that peace requires the ability to defend it. We can learn from the humans. We can become strong enough to protect what we have built. The council voted. 147 in favor, 53 against. Humanity would join the coalition. Captain Ji-hoon returned to the chamber for the final negotiations. He stood before the council with Lieutenant Hana beside him. Master Sergeant Taeyang waited outside with the remaining Marines. High Admiral Vormek spoke formally. Captain Ji-hoon, the Galactic Coalition formally invites humanity to join as a full member species. We ask only one thing in return, that you train our defense forces. Teach us what you know. Help us protect ourselves. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. We accept membership. We will train your forces, but you must understand what you are asking. We do not teach half measures. If you learn from us, you learn to fight like us. You will learn tactics that seem brutal, methods that appear cruel, concepts that challenge everything you believe about conflict. He looked around the chamber. Your forces will need to accept casualties in training. Real weapons, real danger. We cannot teach war with simulations alone. Some of your people will be injured. A few may die. This is the cost of preparation. Can you accept that? The council members looked at each other. This was not what they expected. They wanted safety without risk, training without danger, strength without sacrifice. High Admiral Vormek's gaseous form swirled thoughtfully. Better to lose some in training than all in war. We accept your terms, Captain. Teach us. Lieutenant Hana stepped forward with a data pad. This is our military doctrine. Study it before we begin formal training. It will prepare you for what comes next. She activated a display. The final slide appeared. Dalthos read it and felt a chill run through his scales. Humanity's greatest advantage is not technology, biology, or numbers. It is this: we never forget that peace is temporary. Prepare accordingly. The coalition officers in the room stared at those words. The truth in them was undeniable. Peace was temporary. They had learned that lesson the hard way at Crossroads Prime. Over the following months, human military advisors spread throughout coalition space. They trained security forces. They redesigned defensive strategies. They taught tactics that seemed harsh and methods that felt uncomfortable. Dalthos attended many of the training sessions. He watched coalition species learn to fight. It was painful, difficult, many failed. But those who succeeded became something new. Not warriors like the humans, not yet. But no longer helpless sheep. The humans were patient teachers. Master Sergeant Taeyang spent hours working with recruits, showing them basic combat techniques. Lieutenant Hana taught tactical thinking, breaking down problems into manageable pieces. Captain Ji-hoon lectured on strategy and the philosophy of defense. Dalthos himself underwent the training. At 40 years old, he thought he was too old to learn new skills. The humans disagreed. Age is irrelevant. Willingness to learn is everything, Taeyang told him. It was the hardest thing Dalthos had ever done. His body was not built for this. His species had evolved on a peaceful world. But he persisted. He learned. And slowly, he began to understand what the humans had been trying to teach all along. Strength was not about wanting to fight. It was about being capable of fighting. The humans did not enjoy violence. They simply refused to be helpless before it. 5 years passed. Dalthos earned his commission as an admiral, taking command of a coalition defense fleet. His ships were better armed now. His crews were better trained. The humans had transformed the coalition's military from a police force into an actual defense organization. When the Krithari attempted another invasion, testing the coalition's new defenses, they were repelled in 4 hours. No stations lost, minimal casualties. The coalition forces fought with confidence and skill. After the battle, Dalthos received a message from Captain Ji-hoon, who had returned to human space years ago. The message was simple. Congratulations on your victory. You are learning. But remember, a warrior's greatest strength is knowing when not to fight. Peace through strength. Stay vigilant. Dalthos stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the memorial wall the humans had installed on every coalition vessel. It bore names of those who had died defending the coalition. Corporal Dae-hyun, Private Yoon, Lance Corporal Kai, and thousands more from hundreds of species. The inscription read, "In memory of those who died so others might live in peace. Their sacrifice teaches us. The price of peace is eternal readiness for war." Dalthos understood now. The humans had not come to make the coalition like them. They had come to ensure the coalition could survive. They had shared their painful knowledge bought with 10,000 years of blood, so that others would not have to learn those lessons the hard way. He opened his personal log, the same one he had been keeping since that first day at Crossroads Prime. He added one final entry. I watched humans take the battlefield and finally understood their fearsome reputation. They are not monsters. They are not savages. They are what happens when intelligence evolves in perpetual conflict. They are the answer to a question I never thought to ask. What if predators developed philosophy? What if warriors learned to think? The humans taught us something precious. They taught us that peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the result of being strong enough that others choose not to fight you. Peace is not given. It is earned. It is maintained. It requires vigilance, preparation, and the will to defend it. The galaxy is safer now, not because we are more peaceful, but because we are more capable. The humans gave us that capability. They asked nothing in return except that we use it wisely. I am grateful for the humans. I am grateful they chose to help us rather than conquer us, because make no mistake, they could have conquered us easily. We were helpless. They were not. The galaxy is better with humans in it. They remind us that strength and kindness are not opposites. That being capable of violence does not mean you must be violent. That the greatest warriors are those who fight only when necessary, but fight with absolute commitment when they do. I watched humans take the battlefield. I understood their fearsome reputation, but I also understood something else. Their compassion, their wisdom, and their hope that someday no one will need to be warriors anymore. Until that day comes, we will be ready. The humans taught us that, and we will never forget. Daltos closed the log. Outside the viewport, space was peaceful. Stars shone in the darkness. Coalition ships patrolled the trade routes. Citizens traveled safely between worlds. Peace, hard-earned, carefully maintained. Worth defending, the humans had taught them well.